What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Creative Journal Podcast. I am so excited to have you on the show today, and I'm so excited to share with you today's guest, Mr. Mark Bloemhard. Mark is the owner and principal of Boulder Company Studios in Urbana, Ohio. He's very close to where I grew up, so it's a very meaningful episode because Boulder has done great work and creativity and marketing with some of the most impactful businesses in our region of Ohio. Aside from being, a beautiful Cuban with an amazing smile and personality, Mark is also very well spoken and they're clearly very knowledgeable in his story on resilience in the creative industry and starting a business. Um, was really great to hear and inspired me, especially at this point in the journey. I think there's a lot of value in people looking to go out on their own, the resilience that it takes to build your own creative empire it has. Um, and I encourage you guys to link older companies in Urbana, Ohio, all their social media accounts and website in the podcast description because they have a great site with great case studies and their tone of voice is just, it's awesome. It's sarcastic, it's cutting edge, it's sassy. And that's what brought me in touch with them in the first place because I just loved it. And I had to meet the man, the legend behind it all. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. If you guys are liking the show, please consider sharing and leaving a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening to. That does so much for the show, and we're on out 35 now, so we've been going on for almost 8 months now every week, and it's been a wild ride, and I can't wait to keep it going. So, without further ado, please welcome Mark Bloemhard, the Creative Journal Podcast. But I grew up in St. Paris, somewhat local, but
absolutely.
I just want to get to know you, know your story, kind of tell us the story of how you guys have been founded. I know you've been in business for a really long time, so anyone that can kind of withstand the test of time like that has my respect. So I want to learn as much as I can from you, man.
No, I think there's something to be said about that, man. It's a cruel doggy. I wouldn't say doggy dog because it's like very competitive sounding, but it's a cruel industry, to be honest with you. And in many ways, I'm like, man, why didn't I do something else? Anything else, So,
yeah. It's like we love the struggle, though. When something's not hard sometimes, I think it applies to a lot of things. Inherently, sometimes we don't think it's worth doing. It doesn't challenge us a lot. So, but yeah.
Actually, what you just said, it's like I think I woke up with that thought. I saw this influencer that I have a lot of respect for, and that influencer was like, you know what? I'll tell you what. A lot of times it just sucks, and I just have had to learn to embrace that and be like, this is what I signed up for. And maybe not that you signed up for, but this is it. And if you kind of have the exception or accept it, then you lean into it, and you're like, this is it. And it becomes almost more enjoyable, I would say. I'm like, this is it. This is what's difficult. And it makes it worthwhile. So.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I mean, you strike me as someone that's you strike me as a really good people person. How does going through, I feel like you're very good at building relationships. And I know in an industry where the service industry, you go and you help people. You have to kind of get to the bottom of what their problems are, help them maybe look a little bit inwards. And I know this, I want to learn about your story and everything, but how do you kind of, build relationships and use your services to help people when it comes to marketing? I know because you guys are a full suite service. I want to get into everything about that you guys do and just learn everything, but how do you kind of connect on a people level and, know how to solve your clients' problems together?
Yeah, I think that goes to, I think there's two parts to that. One is how do you grow an agency that is a real people first agency? I think that's really, really critical. I worked for a company and they kept saying it was people first, people first, people first. And when I signed up for them, make a long story short, it was just such a terrible organization. The leadership was so terrible. And because of that, you know how they say that some of your greatest lessons come from your greatest pain or biggest challenges. I think what I learned from that, how critical it is to have an organization that's people first, first and foremost, because it just matters, like, what you do and how the environment is, what you get paid, the culture and everything else like that has a ripple effect. And that follows everybody home. So I think we have 31 people that work here right now. And it's like, as they go home, like, do they kick the family dog, like, or do they go home energized, or, that they're happy to be in a company that's striving to do good work? Do they feel good about that? And I think that I would like to think that that's the environment that we have, on the flip side, when you're talking about the clients and everything, that's a whole nother matter. And I tell this story, and it has to do with my why. And they say, I'm people say I'm emotional. I was like, I'm not emotional. I'm human. But I am emotional, I guess. So it works well with this industry. But I always tell my why, and you got a good why if it almost makes you cry. Like, I know that mantra is there, but for me, it all started actually with my dad. I've got 5 kids, so you can be like, "Hey, your why's your kids." I'm like, no, not really, because I could do other things. My why is actually my dad. My dad was he grew up. He was born in 1937, and he was born in Indonesia, which is like in Asia. He's a Dutch citizen, but he was born in Indonesia. And during World War II, he spent some time in the concentration camp. And so after World War II, he went back to Holland. And from Holland, all he wanted to do was escape post-World War II Europe and come to America. And that was the American dream. He was a brilliant guy, became a mechanical engineer. He worked at some big companies like NASA and Polaroid. And he lived in Boston at the time. And then he ran into a church and he moved to Ohio. So he went from Indonesia to Holland to Boston to Ohio, Urbana, Ohio. Like, he didn't even know where Urbana was. And so when he came here, he was just doing extrusions and manufacturing, a lot of automotive. And to be honest with you, he didn't like his job. He hated it. And he would like any other kid, he would take me to work, and I would just kind of pitter patter behind him and like all these manufacturing facilities. And he would pick up a piece, see if it was in spec, and he'd drop it back into the bin. And he's like, "Mark, find something that you're really passionate about. That's all I ask." He goes, and for him, the American dream wasn't coming to America anymore. The American dream was actually to start his own business. And so he was an engineer. He worked, and then he did a side hustle, and he started 27 businesses, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, he failed at every single one of them. And so when you're asking my why is such a deep, wow, I can feel myself get choked up about it because, when you start a business, you pour absolutely everything into your business. Business owner, what they don't tell you in business school and stuff like that, you start a business, probably about 99% of your wealth is tied up in that business, and it's very volatile. Like, it's fragile. It's that business. So if it goes down, that's it. You're done. You put everything into that business. And for marketing, for me, is the difference between that person that owns the business and success.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when you start a business, you start a business with your expertise, whether it's plumbing or you're building pole barns, or you're selling cars, or you're running a medical spa or something like that. That's your expertise in life.
Mm-hmm.
Our expertise in life is branding and marketing. And so you might have that expertise, like my father, he might have had an expertise in doing one thing, but businesses fail because of one thing. Not one thing, but the main thing is anonymity. People don't know who they were or what they offered.
Yeah.
And so at the end, it's boiled down to, we offer that. That's a solution for these people. They can continue doing what they're doing, but we will make sure that people know who they are and what they offer. And
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you guys, your passion and you guys are good at helping people communicate that value. I mean, the people that you guys work with, your clients, they have that was really powerful. You're a great storyteller. And I think you're a very self-aware person to know that what you are good at is helping other people and helping your clients communicate their own value, and that's what your gift is. So,
I
I
think
really
too.
admire that. Yeah.
I think so too. And like, I don't know if you've ever read the book Think Like a Monk, but he talks about finding your dharma. And your dharma is something that I feel like your dharma should come easy to you. And it's a gift that you give to the world. And I kind of grew up and people are like, wow, he's really emotional. I'm like, I don't know why I'm that emotional. I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm out there. Like, but just one of those industries. Yeah, I say it's cruel because you have to deliver. On the other hand, it's one of those things that you can be yourself and connect with people. Like that's all we're doing. We're artists, and the canvas is connecting with people. That's all it is. I got to connect. I got to connect. I got to connect. I got to connect. I got to connect on a one-to-one level, and then I got to connect on a micro level as well as a macro level. And that's kind of like where a business has evolved to. We work with a lot of investors, private equity groups, and they'll say, okay, I purchased this company. We want to flip it in 3, 4, 5 years. Can you help us? So then we'll work with them for an exit plan and everything else like that. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, it's the cancer of American, capitalism." I'm like, no, it's not. It's like building a house, or it's like purchasing a house that's dilapidated and disrepair. You put a new roof on, you paint it, you give it love, you get curb appeal, and you get it ready for the next family that will come there. You're building a home. Like this house that's dilapidated, and maybe 5 years later it'll be torn to the ground. Like. And in many ways, we do that for businesses. We take a business and we find out what's special about the business. We don't start from the beginning. We do something called appreciative inquiry. We find out what's so special about that business and what shines. And that's what we just kind of put on a silver platter to the world. And they'll find their tribe and we help them connect with their tribe, whatever that is. I really don't care what it is. We serve every single industry out there. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I love that. I think your ability to kind of and I love that analogy of kind of rebuilding the house and getting ready for the next family. I think that's really one to one, and the correlation between, because with the people that come to you, their business that's everything to them, And I know there can be sometimes, like I found this, working freelance, doing my own branding and stuff like that. How do you can balance the emotions that are involved with what is technically right and your own skill set? Because do you ever run into problems maybe with people that you guys work with, and communicating the fact that taking their input, their emotions, everything that makes their brand great, but at the same time acknowledging, like, okay, we're the experts and this is what you need. I see you laughing. How do you kind of balance the two of those and create a successful whatever a campaign looks like for you guys?
It's kind of funny. If you heard the conversations yesterday, we're running through, what does 2024 look like, and what have we learned, and what are the gaps that we're, that the challenges that we have in the business. And I would say for pretty much every agency out there, is one of the biggest challenges is exactly what you said. I think that the problem is that when it goes back to setting the expectation of the client to say, hey, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, I don't mean to be sexist, but hey, client, your expertise is this. Like, for example, one of our clients is the world's foremost authority on lasers. Like they have contracts, they shoot down drones in Ukraine, and then they do like all the eyes and stuff like that. So that's their expertise. They have spent their entire life studying lasers. Nobody can beat them on lasers. However, I like to say we've spent our entire life working in marketing. And so instead of getting to it, he said, she said, let's not do that. Like especially a lot of times people are just looking for events-based, evidence-based marketing. A lot of times with that, then you can't get in there and be like, hey, I like this blue. You like that blue? What about like on and on and on? It just goes on and on and on. So what I'd like to do is just tell the clients that, we don't know, and actually you don't know. And actually we'll give our professional opinion, but that's all it is. And let the market or let the street decide. And so then at that point, we switch quite quickly from qualitative from subjective, and then we switch over to objective or quantifiable. So at that point, we can do, for example, if we're running, we can do test markets. I'm like, okay, if we're struggling with this decision, let the market decide. And we can throw it out there. And I'm not talking about a survey saying, do you like this one or that one or this one or that one? No, those never work, right? It's like Steve Jobs. It was kind of interesting. People lean on research for the wrong reason. They're like, do you like this one or that one? The research will show you, and again, this is my PhD in social psychology, but you build a room of decision makers, that decision will slip to the lowest level of the lowest IQ of anybody in the room, period. And so like a lot of times with that, we'll say, hey, okay, if you want to do that, if you want to open that up, you will not have a good solution. We see this again and again and again. It gets watered down so much. So, it goes back to what I was about to say with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he did an iPad, for example, right? He didn't have focus groups with people like business owners and soccer moms saying, hey, would you like an iPad? They'd be like, what's an iPad? I have no idea what an iPad is. So that's a prime example where somebody has confidence and they say, okay, here's what it is. They didn't care what the market, they Steve Jobs knew that's what the market needed. He knew that. I actually thought that it was a crazy idea. I got my phone, I got my laptop, I got my desktop. Why would I need another thing between my phone and a laptop? I actually thought it was a crazy idea. So but I haven't spent my entire life making electronic gadgets. So that's a great example where, you have to lean on the marketing, you have to lean on the research, but you have to lean on the research in the right way.
Yeah, I like that. And I think what your guys' strength is at Boulder, this is just from the outside. Like I pride myself. I like to think I come into interviews and conversations and stuff prepared. But what I think you guys strike the balance of very well is just in the couple minutes we've talked, you have your side where you're vulnerable, you have personality, you have sass, you have these stories with your father, and you have the experience, and you have kind of the richness and the depth. But you also have these case studies, and you have this evidence that you can kind of come in as, supporting evidence. And like I know on the case studies, like on your website, you have I think it's like the Boulder inflection point where you have kind of, where you guys took over and kind of proving your impact and, how you use a partnership to kind of make a change. And I think that's really the two sides of marketing that are rare to find in combination with each other. I want to talk about what I'm trying to do. What I try to do with these interviews is I try to zoom in, zoom out, which is like with a Tim Ferriss technique, but I don't do it as well as he does. So I want to talk about like how you build a team and the qualities you look for in your people, because I get the vibe that you guys have a really good camaraderie and you guys do great work. So what does it look like under the roof there?
That's a great question. I think that building a team is the most important thing. So when we go to the investors or the business owners, we say, hey, here's a shortcut. You're going to hire us, and you're going to hire the best out there. We do national searches for people. If we're looking for a creative director or graphic designer or copywriter or whatever that is, brand strategist, we're running national. So if we're looking at saying, hey, we're trying to be unrivaled, we believe we're unrivaled in the space. And the reason we believe that is because our wins. We took a company from 58 million in 11 months. They sold for 510 million. This is actually, okay, I'm going to answer your question, but this is actually where the rich get richer. And this is what people don't tell you. They want you to believe to put your money into 401k, put your money in stocks, and maybe you get 10%, maybe you get 11%. If you had worked with one of our equity groups, you would have gotten 900% in 11 months. And they don't talk about this. So this is really kind of the heartbeat of America, actually. It doesn't get any higher than that with private equity groups. So to build a company or build a team that's well-oiled machine, first of all, I think it starts from the top. I really embrace vulnerability, to be honest with you. We have 5 core core principles that we hire to, and to be honest with you, we fire to. And we look at it, we're looking for people with ownership. You have to take ownership. We look for people that are team first. We just, I think this month, it will be the last month that we're working with the biggest client we've ever had. But we 86'd them, we let them go because they were not a good relationship. They were like very condescending. So we are willing to put our money where our mouth is. It is the biggest client that we have. And it's just not working. So when this team sees that, they realize these aren't just words that are just sitting on a paper and, on a dusty box, that we're actually, now we got to scramble to make that up. We are looking for people that are lifelong learners. So one of the things that we'll look for is, like, we're talking to people, we're like, who are your influencers? Like, if you're a social media expert, who do you follow? Like, if you're a brander, who are you following? If you're a copywriter, who are your 2-3, what about them? Like, I don't want somebody says, oh yeah, David Ogilvy. I'm like, okay, great. That's sure. Like, but what about him? Like, what do you find Steve Jobs? I'm like, okay, yeah, Jan or Elon Musk. Okay, yeah. But what about him? Like, what about him? What do you find so fascinating? So we really want to dig into that. We want to see these people as creatives that are like a full body. Like, we want to know that you got hopes and dreams like everybody else, and you're this passionate driving force. One of the things that we have is a 30-day sabbatical after 5 years. So if you work here for 5 years, then you go on a sabbatical. And a sabbatical is like, you have 30 days, you apply for it. So you say, hey, this is what I want to do. We're not talking about fixing up your kitchen or repairing your plumbing and your whatever. We're talking about something that satisfies your soul, that gives back to your soul. Because when we're working with companies, we actually believe that we give them a part of our soul. So in many ways, and you can roll your eyes, anybody can roll their eyes and they think it's like, a sales tactic, but we look at them, and if the fit's not there, we don't want to give them a part of our soul. Hence, we're letting one of our biggest clients go. And so we're looking for that. We're looking for people that have a soul. Like, we're looking for very, very long term. If you go on to sabbatical, we would like to know where you're going. Share that with the rest of the team so we can live vicariously through you. Go on your sabbatical and then come back and tell us how it went. Let us live vicariously through you. How cool would that be if you've got 30 people a year going sabbaticals? Like, every month you're talking about, hey, Andy went on sabbatical. What did you do? Like, I'm like, here's the things that I would do. I'd rent a fishing cottage in like Alaska, just so damn random. It's unbelievable. I'd rent an Airbnb for an entire month in Paris. If you lived in Paris for 1 month, you feel like you kind of like know Paris. Maybe you don't know the language, but you kind of get around and all kind of stuff. What if in a month you could sail across? You could be crew and sail across the Atlantic, right? Like, you can just go on and on. There's so many wild things you can take. You can hike a part of the Appalachian Trail. You can it's just nonstop what you can do. It's a month. You stack that with your vacation that you have already. And that's what we're looking for. People that we just look more as a team. I'm like, I want to look at, I want to be invested. I'm like, the questions that you ask somebody when, you're hiring them are not the questions I care about. Like, legally, I can't ask them, about like everything that I can't ask. That's what I want to know. And so when they get hired, then that becomes really fun. The other thing too is about part of building a team is that I think that a lot of companies don't recognize that partner or that spouse, or let's say that partner with that person, carries a lot of weight as well. So that person comes home and they're struggling. They're like frustrated with this or frustrated with that. Their therapist, their shoulder they're crying on is that partner. So like, we really, really reach out to make sure that partner feels that we really appreciate that they are a very vital role in the larger scheme of everything that's going on here.
Wow. Yeah. I can tell you guys are very meticulous. A lot of untraditional things that I hear is from the sabbatical to really kind of peeling back the layers and, getting to know the person. And I think that's the only way to do it. Like, if you're hiring someone, then you're looking for the qualities that not just are top of paper resume, but that make them someone that gets you excited to work. And I love the concept of living vicariously through other people. if you can find a way to, and it doesn't just have to be the people that you work with, but if you can find ways to live vicariously kind of through other people and other experiences, then just think of the possibilities that you can have and how much easier it is to get excited when you just go into work every day. If you can feed off of other people's energy, and if you guys seem to like have a good filter for that of the people that you let in, then it seems to be a really good flywheel effect where you can kind of use each other's experiences to keep each other motivated and then just keep that creative energy going. So I love the concept you guys have there. Sounds really powerful. So I wanted to ask you kind of about zooming back out again, you guys' story, like getting founded, because I know you kind of talked about your childhood a little bit with your father, and I really love that story. That's something I'm going to take notes on and remember for sure. But kind of the founding, like coming to Urbana, Ohio, starting the business side of things, and then like who were your first hires, kind of the foundations of Boulder & Co. that led to where we are today.
I never wanted to have my own company, to be honest with you. Like I said, I have 5 kids, and at the time I had 4 kids, and it was more important for me to be a good dad for them and have just a good paycheck. You get there on Monday, you leave on Friday, and it's still at the office. The problem is with creative is that it's really, really time consuming. And every place I worked at was a lot of overtime, a lot of travel. It's really, really tough on a marriage. It's really tough on a family. And part of like at a high level, we're like, hey, can we hit the reset button on what creative agency could be? Now, the creative agency, you could look at it and be like, ha, ha, ha. I watched Mad Men. That was like, no. That was the life we lived. It was very, very Mad Men, like it wasn't like you were like, a lot of that part, like it wasn't like we were drinking at work and all kind of stuff, but it was hard charging in its own right. Like it was nothing for like the creative directors to have 2 million freaking flyer miles. And you could be like, wow, that's amazing. That'd be great to have 2 million freaking flyer miles. I'm like, but it comes at a very, very high cost. That might mean that you're traveling on Thanksgiving. That might mean you're traveling on Christmas Eve. I had one boss. It was not uncommon for him to do 2 red eyes a week. So at that point, you're trading your health and everything, and so that's part of like at a high level, can we do something? So the build has been way slower, but we've never asked for overtime. We try to make this a real, like hit the reset button on what a creative agency is, and still be able to perform against some of these bigger agencies, and there's bigger agencies. They're just really beating these people up and just squeezing every single ounce of creativity out of them. So at a high level, where we started, like I said, I alluded to, we had a job. It was like literally the worst job ever. Lost that job. Don't even know to this day why I lost that job. I just, got fired for really no reason. I came home and I didn't have anything to do. Like I didn't know what to do. I sent out, this would be crazy. Struggle with this a bit because I worked with some of the biggest clients, the biggest agencies on the planet. Like my clients are like, Maserati and Ferrari. Did all the dealerships for Maserati, all the dealerships for Ferrari. The McDonald's that you see here, I can show you original, drawings for all those McDonald's. Home Depot was one of my clients. Like, so I had a roster that was as big as anything. And the company I was working for, they took me to Finland. And then I just came back. It was the 17th of December. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do at all. I was shell shocked. I always thought that I could draw. I drew buildings. Like that was my career. Just drew buildings after buildings after buildings. I always thought that people would hire me. I ended up, I have a BFA, graduated top of my class as a BFA. I've got an MBA in corporate finance. I got an MA in leadership, and I got a PhD in branding and marketing. And I sent out 852 resumes.
Damn, that's a big
one. With 4 interviews. And I don't know if it was my age at this point. Like I didn't know if it was my age or like whatever that was, but I thought that it was like extremely marketable. I just wasn't. And then maybe it was the universe just, wanted or needed to humble me a little bit. I think that might've been it, but when I say I sent out 852 resumes, they were physical resumes. So if I saw a post on LinkedIn or something like that, I just, apply to that post. What I would do is I would go to find out who I was reporting to and find out who was hiring. So I found out 2 people, send them 2 cover letters, went to the post office, mailed a hard copy, because who doesn't open that big package that's sitting there, right? Did that over 852 times. So when we started the studio, I kind of gave up. We started a studio and I had sent out 808. And like, I'm really into numbers. I'm really into 8 is the number of infinity and good luck. So we almost named it Studio 808, to be honest with you. Anyways, I think we should have done that.
Yeah.
So I did that, and you could tell, even while we were running our own agency, I still kept applying for positions because I just didn't want this. So I went from 808 to 852, and finally at that point I was done. I was like, I give up. And at that point I was a little too deep into it, but I just didn't see how we could start an agency in Champaign County and compete against all the clients or grab the clients that I worked with in the past. I just didn't see that. It's hard enough for these clients to look at you if you're in the Midwest. There's if you're in creative, there's only 2 parts. It's the East Coast and West Coast. And then in the middle, it's this whole, so how do we create an agency that's competitive and can compete against the big guys on the East Coast and big guys on the West Coast? And so we did that really reluctantly. We started, my first hire actually was my sister-in-law. I knew her, almost nobody knows we're related, but knew her very, very well. And she was the yin to my yang. She's very process driven. She's absolutely brilliant. She knows everything about this business, and now she's our CFO. But that was the first one, and then we just kind of started building from there. So
nice. That's a great foundation. It's like I said, you seem like a really self-aware person, and to know that even the people that make it to the top, I mean, I don't know everything about you, but objectively, you have your own agency, you run a team, and even the people that make it to the top like you, they go through those hardships, and I think that's important. Like I said, I'm young. I'm 22, and I haven't quite reached 852. I don't think I ever did, but I think that played a big role in your success today. Like I said, I don't pretend to know you as super well, but to have gone through that and to come out on the other side is really powerful, I think. So I really admire that about you. So so Boulder & Co., what is your guys's kind of, you guys have a great website. You have a great sort of vibe. Like I said, I get a really good vibe from you guys. How do you kind of communicate what you guys do to your clients? And this goes a lot about building relationships and kind of communication. Like I said, you strike me as someone that is really good at connecting people, and you have the 2 sides of vulnerability and also the data to back it up. So how do you kind of communicate your value and just get on the same page with the people that you want to work with? Because it seems like also you mentioned you have connect those two and make for what makes a good collaboration and project.
Yeah, I think for us, when we look at a client comes in the door, a lot of our clients come in the door as word of mouth. We just bring on another client, huge client, and it was a marketing director that worked with us at another endeavor, and then he moved over. So we're a lot of that goes on. Private equity. It's like they know our successes, so they're like, okay, let's go. The biggest thing that we're looking for, a lot of times we'll ask the creative team, what industry do you want to work in? And I can imagine somebody would say, it'd be great if we did microbreweries. Microbreweries are so cool, and we could do it all. We could do the packaging. We could do we could do the environments and we could build the building and everything. I was like, yeah, but pretty much it's unanimous right across the board. They're like, they don't care about the industry. They care about the relationship with that person. They really don't care if it's Dunkin' Donuts or if it's whatever that is. And that really helps us, because that helps us really define who we are. And as we're moving forward, if we don't have a really good vibe from that person, we just kind of move on. We cut bait and we just move on. We tell the people that, and I think that a lot of people believe that we're just saying that, as a sales tactic, but we will move on. And I think that the one thing that it depends on who you're talking to. Most of the people we're talking to are CEOs. It's a complex sale. So when you're looking at it, say, many times we'll get into the business strategy. The business strategy is dictated by the marketing, it's dictated by the sales, and on and on and on. So if you don't have, and I tell everybody, we don't care if you go with us or don't go with us, but you better have a marketing department that provides predictable, repeatable, and scalable business. Those aren't just words that are coming off the top of my, tip of my tongue. Better be predictable. If you look at me and say, I want to grow this company by $30 million or 30%, whatever that is, I really don't care what it is. We should have a relationship that we say, that's going to cost you $150,000. You reach in your back pocket, you pull out your American Express, you're like, yeah, you're right. Because we've been co-creating this marketing plan all along. That's predictable. And there's very few agencies that have the courage of saying that and have a relationship with their clients with that. The second thing is it needs to be repeatable. So if it worked once, it needs to be worked again. So as you're taking it to the investors, the first thing they listen to Shark Tank, listen to anybody, first thing they ask for is, what's your sales? That's it. So when we're working with agencies, a lot of people don't understand we are strategists. So as we're working with agencies and they're private equity groups and they're flipping it to another private equity group or another investor, the first thing that they're going to ask is, what's your revenue? Second thing they're going to ask is, what's your profit? If you've got a real investor working with you, then that's where we come into play. So the first investor or the business owner, what they'll do is explain the past and predict the future. You can look at somebody and be like, hey, we've got this business, is an amazing business. Now, we've lost money last year. Last year was a down year. If you're a savvy investor, you're like, okay, cool. I appreciate knowing that. Explain it. You say, well, we just invested, $15 million in new equipment. I'm like, okay, cool. So predict the future now. So a savvy investor will be like, explain the past, predict the future. Nobody can really predict the future unless you've got an agency like us that has all the quantifiable data. We like to say the data, if you don't have the data, you can't make the decisions. That data then it's far more than sales. It's far more than marketing. It's far more than any of that. It creates a continuity between their dreams and their reality. It's strategy moving forward. So for us, it's far more strategic than anything else. So if you're explaining this to them and you can show the case studies, then you can really back it up. The problem with case studies is that we can't kiss and tell. We can't say, hey, look at X, Y, and Z. We took them from here to here. That's what we'll do. We took from here to here. It's public information. We're not going to kiss and tell. We wouldn't do it to them and we wouldn't do it to you. So they're like, okay. So one of the reasons we picked up another company, we picked up this tiny little apparel company and we grew them 6 times last year for the first full year that we had it. And one of the reasons we did that is because at that point we say, this is a company that we personally invested in. We have so much confidence in the process that we personally invested in this company. Now we would like to pull back the curtain. We would like to show you absolutely everything that we're doing with this. We're allowed to do that. And if you have any questions, let's spend some time on that. It's not a case study. It's far deeper than a case study. We'll be extremely vulnerable. And that's how we start the relationship. We need to have a vulnerability with them. So we, instead of looking at an AOR, agency of record, we'd much rather have a relationship. We say, hey, Andy, you asked us to do blah, blah, blah. We couldn't quite do it. we kind of fell flat on our face. I'm sorry about that, but we have another idea, and that vulnerability, like we need to have that vulnerability. So we'll take that first step to that vulnerable relationship and actually show them the back end of what we're doing for our own company.
Yeah, Mark, I love that because it's like on some level, you guys can relate to each other no matter who it is you're working with, because if they are empathetic at all, they'll understand that you guys are a business too.
Yeah.
And as people that go through, as you run business, as you go throughout your entrepreneurial journey and you do all that stuff, there's similarities in every case. And what I think Boulder has a really good opportunity of is having done that hundreds of times with businesses as you grow and scale, because not just are you going through it yourself, like you also obviously have the chance to learn from all these companies that you work with, but you can kind of start to zoom out, pick apart the commonalities, what makes for a successful campaign and what happened in the past that we did that can help you as well. And I love the concept that you said of vulnerability about, how last year was a down year for you guys, and even bring in the hypothetical of being able to share that with people, because not everyone's successful all the time.
Right.
I mean, all we're trying to do is communicate to each other. Hopefully we can help each other out and do good work and portray our value to other people. There's this quote by Austin Kleon. He says, I think it's art is 10% inspiration, 10% perspiration, and 80% justification. And when I think of creative marketing, I think of that 80%. And I get that big feeling when I'm talking to you, because you have all of the emotion, the inspiration, the 20%, but then you have all this stuff underneath it. You have all the stories, the emotion, but you also have the data as well. So yeah, I really love that, man. I've learned a lot from you so far, so I really appreciate that. But if you could, I want to kind of zoom in on your career in particular. What if you could attribute, this is something I try and ask people just to kind of get a better feeling for who they are and how they operate. But if you could attribute kind of your success, and you can define success any way you want. I mean, I think for you, it looks somewhere between a balance of business and life. I think family and people are something that's both very important to you. So if you could attribute one habit or trait of yours to your success, what do you think that would be?
You ask a really good question. Let me just take a step back. I was listening to this guy, and he was running kind of like a motivation, whatever. And he was like, it was like all for men. And he was like, everybody's chasing something. They're chasing this elusive concept of success. It's like a whisper, right? Mm-hmm. But what is success? And I think that you've alluded to it. You've talked about it a couple of times, and you say the quantitative, people get hired by the quantitative, and it doesn't work, or it does work for the qualitative. So you say the quantitative is like, I've spent 10 years in this agency. I grew it from here to here. Like, I was in charge of P&L. That's, $2.3 billion, blah, blah. That's all the quantitative. Why it doesn't work out in the relationship is the qualitative. And those are the questions you can't really answer. And for me, I think it starts off to say, what is success for me? And success for me, it's very, very clear. And it's very simple. Like, I've been married 25 years to a lady by the name Bethany. I tell everybody she's my better three-quarter. For me personally, that's my level of success, that I have an incredible relationship with her. I look at her and I'm like, that's my biggest investment. Then after that, it's like success is that my kids want to hang out with me, like when they need to hang out with me. There's so many people you can have, we just went to Naples, Florida for Christmas. You have the $10 million house on the coast, but that house can get pretty empty. Like, if that's all you have. For success, that's what it is for me. And then the third is that we create a really, really warm working environment that people can realize their full potential, working here. So it's not a dollar. It's nothing else. That's what it is for me. Mm-hmm. So those three things. It's my wife, number one. It's like, because I just like It's my best friend. And if you're with us, you can feel it. 2, it's my kids. That's what matters. Like, and then the third one is like the business. I'm like, is this a good, noble, is this a good business that people can find? And who am I, right? I'm nothing. Like, we have a whole team. We have a whole team out here. Like, with me, I'm just a guy with a t-shirt that says Boulder Creative, so who am I? Like, it's the team that's what you have to protect,
Yeah.
But you asked me a question. You asked me one question. I answered something totally different, and I forget what your question was.
That's totally fine.
No.
Man, you're the star of the show, so take it any direction. But
No, what was the question? Because I did want to answer the question, but I totally blanked out.
it was like, how do you define success? And then what was the one trait that you would attribute to finding that?
You know what? I think success, like as an entrepreneur, I think about this often, and it fuels me. And I'm going to get this wrong, but you'll get the spirit of it. And I don't even know who said it, so I'm plagiarizing it, and I can't give credit for it. But you've got about 40% of the people out there just want to do a job, which is fine. They just want to. Like I said, I was in that category. I just want to show up. I sent out 852 resumes because I just want to show up on Monday and leave on Friday. So 40% of people just want to show up. Then there's 30% of people with these wild ideas, right? I get wild ideas all the time. I'd like to start this business. I'd like to start this business. Then there's a 10% that have wild ideas and work. Mm-hmm. And you have to work really, really hard. Now, if you don't take my word for it, you can fact check this, but read about Elon Musk, for example. Like, he does 16, 17, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so if you look at it, like, people are like, hey, I want to be really rich. I want to be really wealthy. I want to be blah, blah, blah. But the problem is, none of us are so brilliant that we cut the corner of hard work. You just can't. I've never seen it. So you kind of have to have like the idea, and then you have to have the confidence to be like, if I put into time, it will happen. Mm. So what category am I in? I think I was born maybe in the third category or second category or the first category, but I have to force myself into that third category. That category that says, I've got ideas, I'm willing to work, like, let's go. Like, it's the hybrid of that. And I think that many ways, like, if you listen to like Gary Vee and you listen to all these people, they're like, hey, start your own business. I just don't think that's reasonable. I think that many times when you do that, you're setting up for people for failure. Like, I think that a leader needs to have about 4 or 5 traits about them that, to be honest with you, not everybody shares. One is that they have to hope for a better tomorrow. You can't be a leader unless you're hoping for a better tomorrow. And there's people that literally just don't have that, which is fine. Like, we've got like our team, we have a very dynamic team. Like, I don't need a bunch of Mark Bloemhards in like that. I actually hope for a better tomorrow. That's why we're doing everything, So I think that there needs to be a lot more soul searching and just be like, you know what, this is me or this is not me. I'm in the 40% that want a job, or I want the 30% that has wild ideas. A lot of times they don't really, how do you monetize off of wild ideas, but then there's that 10%,
Yeah, like I said, you seem like a really self-aware person, and to see that of all the people I've talked to, all the successful people, all the people that, have grown and scaled, that there's always some element of not getting around the hard work. You know, you can go, and I've even seen this from you just in this conversation. You start with the vulnerability and the aspect of the meaning, but there's got to be the drive there to see it to the end and to want to have that clarity of what that idea is, and to be able to put in the hours to justify the success that you do earn. So yeah, I think that's really powerful to see from you. But I'm on my lunch break right now. I have to get back by 11. So, dude, I am so grateful for your time, man. I say this to everyone, but ever since getting a full-time job, I'm just so grateful for anyone that can give me any amount of their time. So I'm super grateful, man. And I think podcasting, I think you would kill it, man. I know you said you were looking to get into that a little bit. I think you would be a great host. I mean, there's a lot of examples of marketing agencies that have done it, and it's a great marketing resource, not just for your guys' business, but it's a good way to, you can bring on clients, you can bring on family members, and it's a great way to kind of build audience relationships because you're in someone's ears for, hours. And I think you personally have the personality to make that work. More about you. They want to learn about Boulder, and where can they find you?
Just Boulder website. I think I even have my cell phone number on it, so they can call me anytime. My phone rings off the hook. So